Hello, I'm Bob the Booker and welcome to my channel. And so this week and really the last couple of weeks, things have been a bit nuts with both work and personal life and all these other very many things here, there and everywhere. And so my brain has been absolutely fried. And so it was delightful, transition coming in here, delightful to read a book like Tales of the Suburbs by Justin David. Long story short, essentially, so Incandescent are a publisher who I have been sort of following for a little bit. A few of their books have been some of my favourite books from the last couple of years. So A Dress Book by Neil Bartlett and I Am Not Raymond Wallace by Sam Kenyon. And Justin is someone I've interviewed on the channel before. So I was really, really excited to read his new book. And so just wanted to jump in on this, especially as this is part of a little tour for this book, a little mini online promo tour for the book. So let's get stuck into what this lovely little book was all about. So as I mentioned, my brain has not really been firing on all cylinders for the last few weeks. So this was exactly the kind of cozy, lovely read that I needed. It's related to his other two books, which I read and loved. Carrying loads of books there in front of you. Essentially the core idea of this is almost the sort of prequel going right back to young Jamie as he is sort of growing up. And so we've got all this really fun dialogue and all these really beautiful interactions between him and his family. Him as a young man realizing his sexuality in the Black Country in the West Midlands, and finding out through that, you know, sort of trying to work out who he is, his first loves, his first sort of desires, his first sort of understandings of who he is as a person. And in some ways, I mean, when I interviewed Justin, he mentioned this book coming, and was joking about the fact that he's sort of writing these all backwards. But essentially it then does sort of fill in a little bit of the background behind this. So we have Jamie, who features again in Kissing the Lizard, and we're also introduced to his crush, who is Billy, who features in The Pharmacist. And so this book, I just thought was a really beautiful, gorgeous sort of way of taking us through this story. So we find out about him right from the beginning. We learn a little bit about who Jamie is this character. It's full of all this very, like, if you sort of grew up on British sitcoms, as I did, there's something about the kind of comic timing and the kind of absurdity of a lot of what's being said in this book by characters that feels so sort of British sitcom, which I really, really loved. These sorts of, you know, non sequiturs from various family members and these sort of observations where they're like, oh, well, I thought it was always like that. Oh, well, I did think he was a bit funny. You know, these sorts of slightly doddering, confused things as this family really tries to understand his sexuality and tries to understand this sort of difference, right? We're kind of talking about a sort of an area where there's this sort of strong community feeling, but also it's quite a scary place to be standing out in any way. You know, it's not really a place where you sort of come out and are instantly embraced by the community. It's sort of growing up and articulating that and trying to work out who you are in this really beautiful, powerful way. But equally with a community that might be supportive of you and might be, you know, might rally around you and be the first to defend you if anybody tries to come at you. But equally is a community that just doesn't maybe get it at first. You know, despite other people they might have met before, there's maybe a sense that they don't fully understand how to interact with someone who is so different, who is sort of wearing these, you know, wearing his mother's clothes and sort of walking around and sort of being this sort of fabulous kind of queer creation. They don't really know how to approach that or to understand it. And I think that's what I thought was really effective about this book, is the way that we watch as the characters slowly come to terms with it. And it's something that I asked Justin about when I interviewed him around Kissing the Lizard, which was also how a lot of the dialogue exposes a lot of these sort of conversations of people really just trying to wrap their heads around things. These are not, you know, for the most part, people who are antagonistic towards LGBTQ plus people. They are just a little bit they just need a little bit more information. They just need a little bit more time to process it and experience it. And that's sort of what comes up here, is sort of these early initial conversations in a really beautiful way that sits along some books that I really adore, that talk about that kind of queer working class experience, and particularly the kind of trying to find yourself. So people like Damien Barr with Maggie and Me, which is a book I adore. Also in I Am Not Raymond Wallace by Sam Kenyon, that kind of slow dawning realization of who you might be. Something like Shuggie Bain, where again, these sorts of ways of people coming to understand who they are and their identities and their place in the world, and how they might do that. And so I just thought it was a really beautiful read that I read in sort of pretty much one sitting and sort of devoured, and was exactly the kind of book that my brain needed while I was just a bit burnt out. So yeah, I really do hope that you check it out and that you enjoy it, and I'll speak to you all soon. I've been Bob the Booker. Take care. Bye bye.